Nerd On the Podcast is proudly partnered with Apogee Electronics and Odyssey Headphones, leaders in the field of audio.
You can sit and watch a film in your pajamas.
You can pause and pee whenever you want to, Josh. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Nerd On, the podcast you didn't need but deserve, where all levels of nerd are welcome. And today, with everything that's shifting and the tides and everything we're experiencing at the time of this recording, we're taking a break from all the topic stuff. We're taking a break so that we can talk about what's going on in the world and about our thoughts around the film and gaming industry and how that's affected us and how everything's affecting that and the world at large. And we finally have a full crew, and I'm so excited because today, this episode, we are talking about gaming and film in the age of COVID, or in the time of COVID, whichever you like to call it.
This time, this new life of ours.
Yes. We'll introduce the host real quick. My name is Tom.
Caitlin.
Ollie.
Corey.
And I am Josh, and this episode is brought to you in part by the members of the Nerd On Nation that is powered by Patreon. As a member of the Nerd On Nation, you do get fun perks, like you get early access to these episodes. You get bonus episodes that nobody else hears. You get discounts on merch.
Partake in polls?
Yes,
you get grump?
Yes, you get polls. You get access to private servers on our Discord server, private channels, that is. But yeah, check that out. To join the Nerd On Nation, you can go to nerdon.tv/Patreon. And to join the Discord, you can go to nerdon.tv/Discord. Did I say that right? Yes, I did.
You did.
Nerdon.tv, yeah.
Good job,
Thank
you.
So also,
You have one job.
A big shout out to our partners, Apogee Electronics, who have equipped us with these microphones, the Hype Mic, the ultimate podcasting microphone. As I have said many times before, it is a wonderful microphone. We use it on our streams. We use it on these episodes. We use it in content that we create, and I can't recommend it enough for other people to get into it. It's very simple, very plug and play. I dig it.
I play with it a lot.
Odyssey headphones. They have officially recognized our slogan, which is, if your ears were mouths, they'd taste like butter.
Tastes like butter.
So don't take my word for it.
Take theirs, and that's theirs.
Yeah.
Mikey likes it.
so good.
But yeah, it's another product that I stand behind. It sounds so good.
Not just good for editing and mixing, but also for gaming. I've been using them for playing World of Warcraft.
Do you have sensitive ears and you have trouble finding the headphones that fit your ears if your name's Ollie? Well, we got the solution for you. These Odyssey headphones that are butter on your eyeballs.
Oh. He took a left turn there at the end.
take that.
And I don't want to follow that one.
Butter on the eyeballs isn't so bad.
That's how you get pink eye. But
No,
yeah,
it's not.
That has
Take
been
it
the
rid of
house.
What
bruises.
kind of butter are you using, Josh?
Booty butter, that's what he's using.
Oh,
No.
It's boo-boo, baby.
Josh, quick.
Okay.
So the
Speaking of
next
sanitation
part.
and health,
That was the housekeeping. Let us get on with this this conversation.
Let's just get into it. Yeah, so...
So COVID's a thing.
Okay, yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
that was really hard into it.
Well,
well, it's
Yeah, that's
comprehensive
how 2020
episode.
It
has
was
been.
not at all. It was so COVID's a thing. It was very subtle, actually. It's like very mild.
Yeah,
It's
I
like fucking
guess.
COVID. That's rough into it.
What kind of a segue do you want?
I mean, so we've been now recording this at a distance with all of our awesome stuff for now 4 months. So like
Yes.
after our live
Actually,
show,
it's
we were
5
like,
I mean, look
months,
at me.
'cause we
Look what
started
I'm
in-
doing
5
here. This isn't even
Yeah.
everyone
This is
should be
the live
everyone
show.
should be watching this on YouTube.
Speaking of the live
bizarre
show,
time we live in.
like
when I'm
the
doing
live
this.
show is totally like, do you remember like I Am Legend where you would have the flashback scene to like normal life? I feel like the live show would be like our flashback to normal life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
That was the last normal like big thing we did.
and we talked about it where like we were all like, ooh, like it was getting a little like, I don't know if we should do it because Caitlin's freaking news on the update was about how South by Southwest got canceled because of COVID, and then we were still doing a live show and we were like, oh God. And, we hope everyone's healthy and safe. But, I mean, it has not been without notice that like the film and game industry has been highly affected by like release dates specifically. So like films like Trolls 2 came out specific on VOD. Last of Us got pushed back. Cyberpunk got pushed back. Tenet got pushed back.
Mulan is coming out
Mulan
on
is,
VOD.
First it was like theaters only, and then like a little flip floppy, and then Bloodshot had like the worst box office ever. And history was made. Like independent filmmakers rented out a theater and had the highest box office for a weekend, and it was like, wow, you are now in history. And everyone looks at that weekend, it's going to be like, this was the highest grossing movie of that weekend.
Wow.
So what are our thoughts? What's your takeaways?
Well, it's a double-edged sword, I think. There's a lot of smaller gaming companies that have made a small fortune during this time that they would not have otherwise. And big companies as well. But it's been kind of a renaissance for indie games and indie companies. It's especially because it hit right during the the height of it was during the summer sale on Steam.
Oh yeah.
And so to talk about the positives, I guess in one sense, is there is a lot of gaming companies that have kind of been lifted up during this time because it's all people have. I think that like the increase, I think I read some statistics somewhere where it was like almost a 200% increase on how much people were spending on video games in the US on PC games during COVID or something like that. I have to get the exact statistic on it, but it definitely went through the roof.
But to add to that, especially in terms of like indie game companies, like so E3 got canceled, and E3 has multiple purposes, but one of them is independent game companies getting connected or potentially getting connected with larger game companies. And so that didn't happen. So I'm wondering if there's like a positive to having an uptick in sales, that it allows them to maybe develop more, that it's almost like I don't want to say it evens out, but maybe it does, where it's like, oh, cool. Now there's higher sales. So now we can, up our efforts towards things or stuff like that. So.
Yeah. I mean,
crazy.
The fact that, we kind of talked about it in the digital green room, but that Halo's been pushed and the overwhelming support it's gotten for that. I think there's also a shift in mentality as well. I mean, I'd like to pride ourselves in thinking that we've always been pretty supportive anytime a game company has said we need more time, because it's not something we usually get anymore. We're so used to getting this game that comes out and then like a month later, like, we patched it all, it's fine now. Yeah. We're kind of like, you should have just taken that first month.
And that's like even without necessarily COVID being involved, but especially, this year, it's sort of like even more understanding that, of course, you need, health and safety. And I work for a company that is purely work from home right now, and with very limited visits to the office, because it is production based and they eventually need to produce and make something. So it's very interesting to see how that's affected by times.
And before all this, like in 2019, Jeff Fowler and Paramount were like applauded that they took their time and redid Sonic the movie.
Oh yeah,
and
that was a very
it worked
big
out.
deal.
It worked out really well, and it kind of just earned the graces of like, hey, audience members, we want to do what you want, but we can't have to it's the one thing Sonic has never done. It was like, let's wait. And so now we're in that time where it's like, it's very, very much more understandable. And I think that's kind of been this like wonderful blanket of grace that everyone's had, where it's like, if you want it as good as it can be, you're going to have to wait a little bit. And I think it's also had like a little bit of a double-edged sword, because, on the offset of what I think Last of Us Part 2, and there's like the game's done, but we wanted to have people have more access to it, and having the physical copies might have rubbed people the wrong way. And we won't get into the whole rabbit hole of what Last of Us Part 2 had, but like the idea of like games that are finished, or people who are kind of like waiting on like things. So like with Mulan, where like I think 30% or like all their marketing budget was to be in theaters this date. And then, once everything hit, everyone said like, hey, it's okay if you totally don't come out soon. Because, once the theaters open up, and then I think there was a moment of like Disney lapsing, of being like, okay, well, we're not going to wait anymore, and we're just going to cut our losses and just go straight into Disney Plus Premium. which now has opened a venue to have. Now we're gonna have premium content on our channel, on our thing. So on top of the subscription that you're paying for, you have to pay another $30, to get access to that stuff. Where I don't know if it's rubbed a lot of people who are the subscriber base who are like Hulu, people who are familiar with Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime have never experienced something like this. Where like, why? Why is it the cost of like 3 tickets versus just the price of one? And having this like kind of iTunes, Apple Music kind of thing where it's like, now if I don't have it, I don't have it anymore. It's an interesting thing where, release dates have now played this one thing where like the MCU fans are so understanding of Black Widow being like, hey, baby, I want to watch it in theaters. I deserve
a cinematic experience.
Yeah. And so seeing like what different companies do with different methods, and it's interesting what Disney being as big as it is, it has a little bit of like leeway to be like, well, let's test it with one and see how well that does, and then let's see if it works better with the other way around.
It's interesting. There's 2 different like categories almost. There's those who are in pre-production, who are trying to get their stuff off the ground, who are looking for studios that are open, trying to get their stuff made. And then there's like, for instance, Shang-Chi is resuming production, et cetera. And then there's those who are at the end of their production. They're trying to figure out when's to them, to their company, the most responsible time to put it out. And I don't know about you guys, but that's kind of been some of the frustration with some of these companies, right? Is them deciding that maybe it's okay for things to come to theaters sooner than later, instead of
they're more concerned with a deadline than a product,
right? Like for instance, Tenet, we have as a prime example of that. I think unless something's changed, as of right now, it's still slated for like a couple weeks from now to come out.
It's worldwide. Like end of August, and then first week of September is going to be to America. And to me, that's a little bit of like the world audience is ready, but the American audience is not, because people, certain places take it a little bit more, studious of what they wanted to do with the pandemic and everything like that. But to me, it's kind of like,
it's a very nice way to put it.
Yeah. I'm trying not to sound like a jack off, but like also the people who I'm targeting are the jackoffs. So,
well, that's the thing. It's like these are these multi-million-dollar properties. To us, they're these huge expensive things, and they're like, no, they got to make money off of it. But there is that flip side of like, this is Disney. They have a lot of properties. They might be okay with gambling something as huge as Mulan, because like to us, Mulan is massive. But
at this point,
it's also massive. But
Mulan's already at like is already at a loss.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they have not made any money and they've spent their entire marketing campaign. So like they have the campaign and it'll go past the movie release.
Yeah.
But so they've already used all their marketing. So it's like either we drop it or we do another campaign for when it comes back in theaters.
I just hope it does come back to theaters, because I want to see something like that in theaters.
And so that's the interesting thing. Bloodshot, the Vin Diesel film that's based off the Valiant universe, is going to come back into theaters at like once theaters are open. And to me, I think that's honestly like the smartest way to go about it, because Invisible Man got their run cut short too. And I think that's a movie that did definitely, to me, obviously, no one fucking deserved COVID-19, and except the assholes. But no one deserved COVID-19. And Invisible Man was one of those films that was like, man, this is such a good movie, such a wonderful reimagination of like a classic film that like I think it deserved like the same like rave and rapport as like Arrival did, as like being this big sleeper hit from Denis Villeneuve, but being from Paramount's or Universal's new slate of like these horror classics. And I was like, this it was like, to me, I thought it was like on in the same playing field as like Jordan Peele Get Out, like it's a wonderful, it's really good.
Wow.
It's so good.
It's actually the last movie that I saw. It was like that last movie that I saw in theaters. And then
where were you? When?
It was like the Friday before the shutdowns all happened. So I was like, I miss going to theaters.
That makes me wonder, like, how much of the last, what are we on, like 5 months now since the shutdown?
Something like that, yeah.
So like, the world feels like it has both moved on and stopped at the same time. So like, how many things are going to come back into theaters after we are quote unquote past this?
My personal take on it is like, look, if everything had just gone well and everything had just been gone according to plan, like there's a funny tweet that posted up yesterday or the other day where it was like New Zealand. Yesterday, everything was back to normal. Like no masks, no nothing.
Whoa.
And then in 24 hours, they were like, all right, we had a spike. We're going to go back to quarantine, mask everywhere. Like,
Whoa.
and everyone just like, okay, That's it. Like, it was very simple. And to me, I'm like, and this is like a really asshole way to go about it, maybe seen as like unpatriotic or whatever the hell. But it's like, I'm totally fine if America gets left in the dust, because it's like, well, apparently you don't deserve it. It's like, it's like you want the nice thing, but you don't want to work for it. You know, like we all could have had the worldwide release the same time tentative, because Warner Brothers, all the overseas markets said like, it is 100% like safe if we go upon these guidelines. But this country decided that whatever guidelines are put in place, you guys just won't listen. So to me, it's like, yeah, you deserve it. And it's like the nice slap on the wrist of like, well, the world's getting it before you do, because this American-made movie is going to do better in overseas than you are going to handle it here. In some positive ways, to your point, Caitlin, of like, when does the world, like, there has to be some kind of nice medium. So Baldur's Gate 3 at the time of this recording is going to come out soon. And at first they were going to do a bunch of pre-orders. And now they're just like, nope, no pre-order. Everyone gets it at the same time. And I think there is a happy medium of like, when can everyone get it at the same time? As long as it's like, quote unquote, upon, and that's the tough thing about art, right? Games, film, it is art, but it is also business. So it's like, is VOD the way to go? Because Trolls 2 World Tour made more money than it might have projected of made in theaters.
Right.
And it's like, people being at home, you know, did this time. I think Corey mentioned the factoid of like Disney Plus met their 5-year goal in 8 months or something like that.
Yeah.
And same thing with Warner Brothers, like their HBO Max, they met 1 million subscribers in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's like Netflix, in order for them to do that, took them 3 years. For Hulu, it took them 1 year. And then for Amazon, it took them 6 months.
Yeah.
So like the idea of adopting this, like, you know, you get access faster, can be done in such a way where you're also still, you know, catering to people who want, you know, the AAA experience of going to a theater or going to buy their, you know, video game physically.
Yeah.
But you just have to be able to.
If there was ever a time for something like a transition of that to happen, it would be now. Yeah. And like, you know, we're talking about like, you know, we were mentioning like the price tag, like $30, and I don't know. I think we'd be surprised.
Already like
on top of your plus, yeah. But generally speaking, like for a ticket, we pay a lot of money for tickets. Like think about like Avatar 3D, you know, things like that. They're like $20-something. You pay for popcorn, all this stuff.
That's a little bit of a difference, because you can't get 3D in home.
Right.
But so in LA, tickets are about $15-16.
Yeah.
And then you can theoretically, you know, if you're a family or whatever, you have like kids, you know, you only have to pay once. So kind of you might actually end up saving money.
Yeah.
So like pricing is definitely has always been the thing in the back of my head of like the thing that's stopping this from moving forward, right? Is like, how do you price VOD something like perfectly that is doesn't insult or disrupt anyone, you know, that's used to the theater, you know, crowd.
Yeah.
I mean,
so it's kind of sort of the big kind of challenge for the industry right now.
I think honestly, like I love it, and the moment I can get it back, I loved my Stubbs card from AMC.
Oh yeah.
And you could pay premium to get like better things. And I think that's what Disney is trying to do and trying to open those avenues for. Of like, if you pay a premium, then you get all the stuff. And I think Peacock actually did a pretty well job of like, it's freemium, but then if you want to pay for the premium access stuff, you get it. I'm
surprised they didn't just do it in a different tier. But then I guess that's the whole like that kind of wraps up in the same conversation, funny enough, of the Snyder Cut being potentially like 6 parts just so they can get 2 months of subscription out of people.
Possibly.
That's sort of like, that's the other thing, unfortunately, that we have to keep in mind is that they want to figure out a way to keep you going longer. And then, you know,
I would assume if they had more content that they could release under a premium tag, they would do it. But since it's just let's test the waters with this Disney film.
Yeah.
See how it goes.
I'm excited where it could go if it's successful.
I'm excited. I'm nervous.
Yeah. I'm also on the side of like, I hate the idea of the abolition of theaters. Like,
that's the thing. I'm always going to be
already on the brink.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, I've said the same thing about like comic book stores, where it's like, you can't just rely on comic books. Like movie theaters can't just rely on movie theaters. And that's why a lot of them have bars. And then you see studio movie grills that have dinners. I think you need to flesh out the arcade aspect of theaters, because quote unquote, you drop off your kids to go play at the arcade or whatever the hell they want to go do. And then that'll be part of your, you know, but that's the epic of megaplexes, right? You have multiple theaters, and then you can have some of those theaters be designated to indie films. Some of them, you know, obviously to the money makers, which are like the Disney, the Paramount, the Warner Brothers, all that stuff. and then you have like this is like a completely side business of that. What they do, it's like what a hotel in Vegas does, right? They're half casino, half hotel, and they're half buffet, and they're half Michelin star restaurant. So it's like
you show and a magician.
No matter what, you're going to get money, and that's the thing with theaters, where it's like you start losing that intimate aspect. Because even though I praise AMC and their stub card, I do side with Corey a lot of the times of like the Laemmle Theater is something that I really love to go to because you pay $7 for the ticket, you pay $10-$12. You have the ticket, you got popcorn, you got a drink, you got a little snack for your booth thing. You know what I'm saying?
And they do. They're one of the few theaters. So theaters like the Laemmle. Let's talk about that for a sec, because this is something that's been on my mind since the beginning of the pandemic. You have a small independently run theater where you get your blockbusters that you can get at AMC, like Tom said, at a pretty affordable price. But they're also an avenue for independent filmmakers. They have Thursdays. Once a week, they would have independent films shown at their theater that you can go watch. They would also have events like Throwback Thursdays, which
they have
had
themes
for a long time.
For months,
Yeah, for a whole month, it'd be like, horror movies or
Denzel movies.
Yeah, Everybody Loves Denzel was one of them. And so we'll be losing experiences like that are truly unique to small, independent-owned theaters because they're having a tough time surviving right now.
It's because they were already doing tickets at a Laemmle near me in Pasadena wasn't very expensive to go see.
And there's one in Glendale that just opened that's probably so in the red now because it opened a month before the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And so I've tried to encourage, I've bought a $100 gift card there. They have like a whatchamacallit, like a premium service like Stubs, where you buy $100, all your tickets are discounted by 10%, and you get a certain amount of food and drink per month. And so just to try to support them, I bought that. Obviously, I haven't used it because they're not open yet. But I was trying to encourage a lot of people to support the small businesses that are struggling right now. As part of Caitlin's thing during the live event, is all these small businesses that rely on big the events. Blockbusters coming out so they can do the cool things are kind of failing right now.
And because that's the tough thing, because it's like what's sadly the science will say and the business will say is that like these quote unquote big events that Scorsese calls them carnival, these big films, like that's what the theaters have to cater to, because those are the no risk and full reward for keeping the business open, where people aren't allowed to make risks anymore. Yeah. And they just have to be like, well, if we sell tickets, then we're a success, and that's the only thing people care about.
And also kind of the I'm going to call it kind of the extended universe of the film, business. You've got and speaking to independent films, you've got film festivals that are having to cancel or try to figure out how to. I have seen that some have gone to digital. I know that I believe I believe that they went digital this year. But you also have things like the Academy Awards and the Golden Globes saying that this is going to be the first time and only time that they'll accept streamed media.
And that's a big contention part, because that's why a lot of industry, because the thing is in order for you to get distributed into a theater, worldwide marketing, you have to go through so many hoops and bounds. And that's why a lot of people say fuck the Netflix and Amazon Prime films, because they don't have to do those same things. They just make an independent contract with them, and then they get automatic home platform, audience. Yeah. And it's interesting because it's everyone else that has to struggle to do that stuff, but there is that sense of I talked about it with the DP that I worked with on a project, and we always talk about the glorification of brutality is a toxic thing in the world, where it's oh, I worked on a set, we had to work for 15 hours, 16 hours, because normally it's 12 hours.
Right.
And then it's well, we were able to shoot in 10 hours. And they're oh, then it's not a real shoot. Then it's maybe we just got our shit together and it was fine.
Yeah.
And
maybe
so
we were
there
just
is
on top of it.
But also,
because there's people like Clint Eastwood who can run an entire production and it's 9 to 5.
Yeah. And it's interesting, but also
it's
he doesn't.
Not cool, dude.
but also he doesn't have people talk on set. If you're working, you don't talk, and you can't have your cell phone. So they're
fine by me.
It's fine.
Tarantino does the same thing, and so does Nolan.
That's normal.
Nolan doesn't have chairs.
No chairs.
No, that's a fucking bullshit. The internet just blew that fucking out of proportion. But no, that's
if you're sitting, you're not working.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. to Josh's point of like how, like, at least for me, like as an independent filmmaker, like I have 100% gone to bed with the idea is like, I think probably my first feature film will be on a streamer. It won't be in theaters. And that's okay, but I don't want that to be my only thing. I want to have the theater experience. I want to be able to go to a place and be like, I didn't have to rent this shit. This was like part of the worldwide release. But like, if theaters have to keep cutting corners and just only making ends meet because like every big studio wants their cut, then it's like they have to only have big studio movies. And so this, obviously has pushed the digitization that I think games, and this sounds really bad because it's not a matter of like who has it worse, but it's like looking at each bowl and see who has enough to eat. Film has like is going to have a really, 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 really tough time after this because theaters are already going down the drains. It wasn't like, oh, there's a shortage of consoles. It's like, no, everyone was just going to go to PC anyway, so it's whatever. So it's not like that. Where it's like theaters, it's like now you're going to see like blocks of places and that are not going to be there, that aren't going to be in use anymore. So it's very interesting. And shout out to Mitchell Iron Uni on our Discord who tagged me on a video. It was like, I thought of Tom. And there's a video that he sent me. It was all about like what I talk about all the time about like streaming is slowly killing theaters. And it's just because people want instant access and people want accessibility and they want the control.
They don't have to
of
drive
everything.
anywhere. You can sit and watch a film in your pajamas.
You can pause and pee whenever you want to, Josh.
It's not wrong.
I mean, yeah.
It's not wrong.
Josh is like, yeah, man, that's pretty great.
And so, like for me,
I still pee in a cup when I'm home. Just 'cause I don't want to leave.
I just pee in my pants. I leave it alone.
I can confirm.
I give my doctor like, this is all my DNA. So here you go.
Just give me your pants.
But you also have the resurgence, or however you want to title it, of drive-in theaters.
Yeah.
I've been seeing that all over
Resurgence.
my feed.
Resurgence.
It's downsurgence.
Which is
I went to one.
Resurgence.
Yeah,
I went and saw the Hulu movie Palm Springs
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
was that
at a
experience?
drive-in theater, and it was a really, really cool experience.
Groundhog Day Part 2.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it is Groundhog Day, but it's also very, very different. I highly recommend that film.
Oh yeah, it's good.
But I'm that is one, talking about theaters, the upside to that is that it's a perfect social distancing experience. You don't get out of your car at all unless you got to go to the bathroom, in which case don't, because it's porta potties. So like
fair.
not ideal in the age of COVID.
That's where the cup thing comes in handy.
you can bring whatever food you want. They don't stop you. I brought all my dark chocolate Reese's. I
Fried
brought
chicken.
candy corn. You
of
can
them?
bring fried chicken.
I thought you said
At least the one
indie
I went
porn,
to, I
and
could
went,
bring, especially because the
porn,
snack.
it was great.
A lot of these places right now, the snack bars are closed due to
Yeah.
COVID. So they encourage you to bring your own food. Obviously, you can't really bring alcohol because it's in a vehicle still.
Yep.
But we had sodas, we had candy, we had popcorn. We brought a veggie platter.
Nice.
because you can.
So
All
it's,
right.
it's really cool, and I've always wanted to go to a drive-in, and so to be able to experience it was nice. Except for the fact that I scared the hell out of my wife because as soon as she finished work, I was like, "All right, pack up, we're going somewhere," and she was like, "What's happening?
What?
I don't like this. I
I
was
don't like change.
I started like putting stuff in a backpack. She's like, "What's happening? Why?" And she's like, "I don't."
Surprises!
I washed my makeup up. I was like, "You don't need makeup. Let's go. Put some comfy clothes on." And she's like, "Are we going to a drive-in?" And I was like, "God damn it, yes."
Yeah.
She was like, "Yay, let's go."
Well, that's good.
Ruined the surprise, but yeah, it was awesome. I don't know if anyone
nice.
else has been to one before, but
Oh, I used
I've
to
never
go
been to one,
all the
period.
time in
Yeah.
Indiana.
highly recommend it.
All
I
the
used,
time.
I used to do like tailgates.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bring your
Where
own
you can-
radio.
That sounds amazing. Yeah.
Where
Don't
you could,
use your car radio because you'll just drain your battery.
Yeah.
But I have a little emergency
good.
radio for
Oh.
earthquakes that we just brought and set up and tuned it in. So
One of my
You-
favorite
so-
things to do in college was I had a Jeep Cherokee at the time, and like the back seats would go back.
Yeah.
It was big
That's
enough
easy to
to
drive in.
put like a sleep, and then you just open up the hatch, back in, and it was just
See,
it's
okay.
like a long seat. Yeah.
I didn't think about that when I went because I didn't know. I had never been to one, so I wasn't sure like how you get into your spot or whatever. But I have an SUV that we have an air mattress for camping
Yeah.
that's fit to the SUV.
that would be
Yeah.
So I was like,
perfect, yeah.
next time we're gonna go and
Hell
it's
yeah.
a hatchback the same way. So
See,
yeah.
because I in Indiana, so many people I know have trucks. Everyone has trucks. So you would go and you'd park in so that the the bed of the truck is facing
got it.
theater, and then you put a mattress in there, and then you line all the sides with pillows and blankets.
Yeah.
And then you have your radio in the center, and everyone's hanging out.
That's what we gotta do.
listening.
Yeah.
and
Especially LA
eating
where
your
it's
munchies.
Pro
hot
tip,
as
Corey.
hell.
Pro tip.
Yeah, well, you know what the dumb thing is? Like, shout out to REI. For camping, we had bought a air mattress that's specifically made for SUVs, so it has the wheel parts
Oh,
cut out.
yeah, the wheel wells.
Oh, nice.
So I have that, and I didn't bring it.
Oh, no.
It would have been perfect. But now I know. I'll
Next
go to
time.
another one.
That's good, and I think unless Josh, you had something to say.
Well, I just had like a question because I don't fully understand it, and maybe this is like rant territory in my mind, but okay, so like for instance, you have companies like Regal and AMC on the flip side saying that they're going to open in like a couple of weeks, and I'm like, I don't really understand it, like how
To me,
how
I
that's
think,
possible.
I
or
think
why that
they're
would
by the paper makes a lot of fucking sense. But in execution, how the fuck are you going to execute this shit?
Yeah,
People are already saying like, I can't go. You can't tell me to wear a mask because it's not a law. And a fucking security guard who's just a fucking day player is just like, dude, I work here. You gotta go. Like that's the end of it. And then they'll sit down in the middle of their Costco and cry like a little fucking baby. And I'm just
did
like,
see that,
get over
yeah.
your fucking self and get the fuck out, or fucking put a mask on. But it's like, how are you gonna do that in a theater?
Yeah.
And also how you can do that with kids, because there's one thing I fucking hate is kids sometimes. I just want to punch them because they're talking all the fucking
We know,
much in a
Tom. We
fucking
know.
theater.
We know.
We know.
We don't like
And
kids.
so parents who fucking want to wear masks, like I see people who put on masks, but then they don't tell the kid to put a mask on.
Right.
I'm like, what are you doing? Like it has to go both ways.
With kids, it's impossible because they're going to do whatever they want all the
Not
time.
impossible. I've seen kids with masks on, and I get it. But also, it's just like if you can't.
Well,
do
there's an
these simple
age range where they'll listen, but
I've
below a certain threshold, that's much harder.
To step away from anecdotal evidence and all this stuff, but it's like I've been able to see like kids at like 5-year-old and up and do
Yeah.
it, and it's just like because they're
The point
told
is,
to,
I think,
and their
the
parents
point
just
is like,
yeah.
I'm worried about it being upheld by the people who are pretending to uphold it. To like they'll put the mask on, and then once they're in a dark theater, they'll take it off. Like
Yeah. And that's the
Oh,
thing.
that
I was
will
like, you
100%
can't,
happen.
you can't
They
police
have
it.
to eat.
Can you police it? Will they police it? Like I know, like at I frequent the ArcLight specifically because they care about like the projection and the speed and the volume.
You can't
and all
have
that
your
stuff
phone
and the lighting.
out.
Yeah, so they have like the staff.
They'll
for
escort you
those
out if you do that
purposes.
shit.
So I'm wondering, like, if
Oh, do
they
they
were to
really?
be like,
I'm gonna have to start going there.
They can, yeah.
They're 100% about the experience. They have
They're
an
on it,
usher
yeah.
that tells you like, thank you for shot. Even though the seats are fucking uncomfortable as shit, they're just like, if you have your
Yeah.
fucking phone out, we'll escort you out of the
So like, I want like
That's awesome.
I want
'cause
an
I've yelled
usher
at a
like
lot of
every
people.
10 minutes walking the front with their little light, so I know that they're doing it.
yeah.
Checking for masks. Like I want them to do it like every 10 minutes throughout the movie. Like
Check me, bro.
I mean, that's I think perfect world. But then again, you're gonna
Right.
have the people who are like, it's not a law.
Yeah, but it's like I feel like that's the only way I'd go to a theater.
I hate that. I
Right
hate
now,
that. You're like,
anyways.
it's not, but this is a private property.
Well,
But, and that's the thing where it's like it is private property, so no shoes, no shirt, no service. But it's like now you have to do the no mask, no service.
No
but
mask, no service.
And I think again, like to a point where it's like on paper it could be done, and the way that they're doing it's like where they're only accepting 30% of people in the entire day, so it's like you have to make like your specific appointment to go watch this film and all.
If it
that
doesn't
stuff.
work for you, well, I'm sorry, you're not going to see it. Well, we have less space anyways because of social distancing, so it works out.
Yeah.
Like
So
the people who are
like,
okay with it get to stay.
if everyone, it's kind of like the problem with traffic. Do you know the true problem with traffic is just response time?
Mm-hmm.
And so like it's that. So everyone that isn't aware with it, it's like why is there bottlenecking? Why is there all this shit happens? It's because people's delayed reaction time. So in the driver's handbook for California DMV, at least, they say to keep another car's distance between you and another car. If you were to do that, there would be no such thing as traffic. But no one does that shit, and that's why there's always traffic in LA. So
Yeah, same. I do too for when I'm on the freeway.
It's just because I've had an accident based on that kind of the reason why the accident occurred was because that space was not there, and so
I don't if I'm driving behind one of you guys. I
It's
go
physics.
right on
It
your
takes time
ass.
it takes time for
Great.
signals to reach your brain
That
to your
2-second
foot
rule, baby.
to the brake pedal. It takes like a couple seconds for that all to happen in your brain.
Yeah,
That's
But-
why I
so-
always do there's a sign,
you need-
1,
you need the
1,000,
time
2,
buffer.
1,000. We good.
Exactly.
We good.
but,
but
even with the conversation about like going to theaters and seeing these big blockbuster movies and everything, those aren't really being filmed right now.
Well,
No. There was a slate
Resuming
for a year,
slowly.
right? So there's a year's worth of film that we have that are in the can.
Well, filming has, as far as my understanding goes, SAG recently talked about opening productions back up again and starting to do things again. Because my personal experience, I don't talk about it a whole lot. I do voiceover and acting and stuff.
You're
but I know the biggest thing. It's crazy. But for me, voiceover actually picked up during this time. And this was also the year that I wanted to start getting into on-camera stuff, and that
Whoopsies.
died in the water.
Yeah.
Like not completely. But what's kind of been happening is all of these shows and all of these things are being cast right now, so that when productions can open back up, they're going to shoot them. But it's kind of like when are we going to shoot again? We don't really know. So my kind of projection of what's probably going to happen is there's going to be a lot of animated shows, like a lot.
From what I know, from my limited experience or encounters with people who work in the industry, is that Hollywood right now, in terms of what we think of film and what we experience, not talking about Bollywood, I'm not talking about the Chinese productions,
right.
but American Hollywood is at 5% productivity.
Right.
And so all the writers are still working. All of the agents are still working. I have a friend who is a writer's agent, and he has told me that all they've done is just set up their office so that they can have clients come in.
Right.
And so there's still people working from home, from the network television people that I guess frequent or I know about. They all have been working from home.
Interact with.
Yeah, all the production coordinators are all still working from home. So still things are being made. And the thing is that what people are doing is making digital content. So a lot of TV is being made, but not a lot of movies are being made.
Right.
And so with film, I mean, there are I hate to say the tragedy stories, but it's just like Jurassic World started shooting in New Zealand again. And then day 5, 9 people had COVID. And it's like, well, this is why we can't do it. So it's interesting and that's the thing where it's like guaranteed. I guarantee that they were like, okay, we're gonna start shooting. They weren't like, let's be butt naked and cough on each other. They were like, we had to take precaution. We got to do this thing. And then they still got hit with some infections. And so even if you open the theaters, as much as I want to do it, as much as I want to go in, and even I think AMC is doing it where they're having incentives of they're going to play old school films like Goonies and Star Wars for 15 cents. It's just you can't guarantee people's safety from something that could be prevented. And that's the thing where it's people, I think, blow out the proportion of oh, well, the world is unsafe, so are you just going to stop? And it's well, no, there's a preventable things. I could wear seatbelts and I won't die in a car crash. I can just not go to this thing and wear a mask, and that's preventable.
I punched my mic.
Very good.
There's also in the same vein that I was reading, and this is how the two industries connect, which I think is really interesting. The sad thing is that they could be a heavy reliance on CG, and what's interesting is that some video game companies are stepping up to the plate to offer those services. So, for example, a company that we have had a friendship with for the past couple of years, Rebellion, I didn't know this, they have a full TV and film division, and they recently, a couple of years back, they bought a $100 million building, 22,000 square feet, that is exactly for this purpose, for CG and that kind of thing. And
if
so there's a crossover of
they're already almost there.
Well,
Blizzard CG is pretty
better than Pixar sometimes.
Blizzard Netflix is already also. I think I talked about this before. The NetFX thing that they started up.
Is it the crowdsourcing?
Yeah. So basically, Netflix is opening up this hey, want to work for Netflix, but you live too far away? We're doing cloud-based. We're going to give you a task, you're going to complete it and turn it back into us, and you will have gotten to work on a Netflix movie, show, whatever. Damn. So they're now not even going to have to worry about getting that $100 million building or whatever. They can just be here's your 3 shots you need to do, complete them, turn them back in, and we pay you.
Yeah.
And then we don't have to worry about a building or snacks or anything else. Providing for our staff. So
the slippery slope thing is how do you write a contract for that? Are they a freelancer? Are they a gigger? So it's I don't know.
Maybe that's a good segue to talk about how content's maybe going to change and how productions are going to change, because we have things like John Krasinski's show that he started, and then don't know if you heard about the Fraggle Rock
That shit got bought immediately.
But I'm saying like that kind of that content. Like, do you guys think there's a world where content becomes more popular, or that we have a major shift?
And
so
Ellie, can you give me some background on that? Because I don't actually know a whole lot about what you're talking about.
John Krasinski's show.
It's Some Good News.
Just his YouTube show.
Sorry, I was gonna go ahead.
It was just his show that he started on YouTube, just like with this format, sort of Zoom format, and then Fraggle Rock actually did a Zoom formatted show as well, and that came out on Apple TV.
Oh,
that was Josh's news when we did an update.
Yeah,
oh,
so
yeah,
like
yeah.
those kinds of like Zoom format, work from home, film from home, like we're embracing the times sort of creative work. Like how much do you think that we're going to be seeing that as far as like a shift of content, or do you think it's not really going to be like a temporary?
Confirm, because I'm looking at submissions for castings. There are a lot of them.
So to talk about that, kind of at the time of this recording, so Some Good News got purchased by Viacom CBS, and I might work for something around that place. But a lot of the stuff that I've been working with has actually been to get clients kits for that stuff. So it's, to me, it's kind of like how we thought what podcasting at a distance was. It's like, okay, we can do this for a while, but then now seeing how long it's going to take, I don't know if it's a long form thing. I think the main thing about the Some Good News was more about like its low production value. You're not going to have John Krasinski as the host, I think, anymore. But it's the idea of like they're going to crowdsource positive news. And I think like to a little bit more like that is Selena Gomez's new show on HBO Max, where she video calls chefs. I don't want to say Zoom or Skype because I don't know what it is. But she has like these Michelin star chefs, and then they teach her how to cook via this phone call.
Yeah.
Via the phone call.
Well, there's also a lot changing. So I have a friend of mine who is in the video game world, and originally what they wanted to do when they would have her in is set up cameras so they can, match facial animations to what she does. But now we're in the middle of COVID. They sent her 3 cases worth of equipment, including like a camera, a microphone, a screen, and had to instruct her to set it up over Zoom on how to set everything up. Took like 4 hours, and she said it was the most miserable experience she's ever had, because it's not really what these actors or
That's not what
their
you signed
skill
on
set,
for.
their training.
it's not in their skill set.
Yeah.
And it's not something they really signed up to want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
I had the same thing happen with another friend. They were sent an entire recording setup, and they're like, I would like to go to a studio because I don't know how to run any of this stuff. And so now everyone is having to do everything. They have to be the actor, they have to be the sound engineer, they have to be the grip,
God.
they have to be the light, they have to be the cam op. Like, it's absurd. It's not a great turn of events.
Kevin Smith has a current show about that. And it's a celebrity show-off show, so it's called Sun in Lockdown. And so he has to shoot it, he has to write it, he has to edit it, direct it, and all that stuff. And it gets put on this kind of like game show of like, can he, show run this at-home shot show, and it's a comedy show, and it gets voted. So it's kind of like this weird, like, which celebrity can make the better show?
Jason Mraz is on that.
Yeah, and so and Bruce Willis's daughters are on that. Kevin Smith's like, I have to beat them. And so there's like a bit of a funny thing, but I think it's also interesting to kind of talk about like how us hosts have been ingesting this content. So like Caitlin, I think one of her go-to questions is, what have you been playing in your Steam library? Like what have we been doing? Like what has been your kind of like go-to? Have you been finishing up your Netflix queue, your Steam library, all that stuff? Like how has being at home affected your consumption rate of this content? Caitlin?
Well,
Caitlin?
Or
it's
sound like
been,
Ollie want to jump at it.
do it, jump.
For me, I kind of took a little bit of a break from consuming a ton of different things, which was something that I needed, and I'm very happy about. But then I very quickly found like the things that I was just like, that like genuinely excite me. So like things like Avatar. It's like, it had been forever since I've seen it. The Last Airbender, to be specific. The TV show on Nickelodeon. to be even more specific. It's great. You have to be like doubly specific for this genre.
Yeah.
Go on.
Or for this title.
You're stalling.
But no, Avatar is a huge one. I also went into like deeper into YouTube and a lot more travel. So it's interesting trying to like mimic the things that I can't do, which is like travel and like eat street food and things like that.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of watching a lot of that stuff. But I've been playing like a crap load of Destiny.
That sounds about right.
After taking about like a good 6 months off, like over the holidays and into like the 2020 New Year, I was like, I got to make up for some last time. So been hitting that pretty hard, and that's been bringing me closer to my clanmates, my friends. Shout out to my clan, Paintray Pirates, all the way. So yeah, it's been me,
Caitlin,
and a lot of work. So
Oh my gosh, I know that feeling. I've rekindled my love for League of Legends.
Nice.
And more recently, I got really sucked into Raft, thanks to Tom for really pushing that.
you're welcome.
And also, he and Josh are salty because I played with other people.
Aw.
Sea salty.
After I played with them, yeah, they're very sea salty right now. I played Raft. I started on Fall Guys.
I want to check out Raft. Raft looks fun.
Raft is a
We
lot
should
of fun.
play.
We should
play it.
So download
So
it.
I have more people to play with it.
Oh my god. See, this is why I get upset about it. Is because you're just feeding an addiction, Caitlin. Like me,
Yeah.
I want to play to have camaraderie with people I play with. Like,
Yeah, I
to me,
want to
video
play
games
with people,
is a
but you
vessel
weren't
to play with someone.
available, so
Caitlin, I will have you know, if you need my resume, I was on a competitive Minecraft server for a better
Oh my
part of
God.
a year back in the day.
oh my god.
So I'm
Okay,
all about
boomer.
surviving.
Minecraft is old now, so moving on to the next.
Actually, it's still pretty current. Anyway,
old still.
oh yeah, you're right. But oh man, I've been watching a lot of Midnight Diner. I know I've talked about it.
Isn't the show
endlessly.
done?
It is done. But I watched Midnight Diner Tokyo Stories, which is basically like extra. Netflix made that. But then there's Midnight Diner, the original like series, multiple seasons. That's what I'm going through right now. And that show is not something that you binge. You do not binge that show. You can if you're like having like, oh my gosh, all of my emotions are hitting me all at once. But like pretty much every episode is going to make you cry. Like for sure. It is something that you savor every episode. So I can maybe watch like 2 in a sitting, but it's very hard for me to watch any more than that, just because I love it so much. What else have I been like taking in?
There's been
It's
things
mainly
that I've
been-
been looking at. I was
Sorry?
gonna say like there's things that I look at when I'm like browsing and I'm like, no, I don't feel like crying right now. Next.
Yep. It's like I need to laugh right now. Okay.
Comedy.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just been a lot of games, and primarily, like that's what I spend most of my time on is just playing games.
Corey,
Yay.
Mine's not very interesting. I've been doing a lot of work lately on this like mind-numbing project that had some hiccups that I'm not very happy to speak about.
Oh no.
So basically, all the work I did for like a week was worthless.
Oh, that's fun.
Because they wanted to reformat it into a different format. So I left
that's
that
the worst.
project. And
That's fair.
other than that, I've been watching Schitt's Creek, which is a fantastic show. It's with Eugene Levy and Dan Levy.
is this a rewatch?
And no, this is my first time I've gotten around to watching it. Actually.
Oh wow.
So I've tried to start with Dana a couple times, and she was having trouble getting into it. And so married life, sometimes that means you don't watch it either. And so finally,
Unless you're Caitlin.
Yeah, can confirm.
finally we finished every other show that she was trying to watch. So she watched Scrubs for the first time, a few others that she had been keeping up with on her own. And then, so like Schitt's Creek was where it was at. So I was like, let's try this again. And she got hooked after the 3rd episode. And so we're into that. We're almost done with season 2, moving on to season 3. And that's kind of it. Then World of Warcraft I've been playing because the new expansion is coming out. If you'd like to know my thoughts and feelings on that, check out our last update. It's kind of I just got a lot of depressing news is all.
Was it the update or was it the extra?
It was
I think
the
it's
update.
extra.
Maybe it was the extra?
Yeah.
I don't know. If it's not on the update, join the Patreon and listen
Then
to
you
our
can hear
extra.
it.
Getting content for you.
Our bonus episode.
I'm having a sort of like a
Existential
relationship crisis with video games. which I think is fine. So other than that, just been watching probably hundreds of hours of videos on how to light and shoot interviews.
Huh. Yeah.
Josh? Wow.
Well, I mean, it's just it's
Pregnant pause, baby.
That's a 2020 sigh if I ever heard one.
Well, I just like that you always force everybody else to go.
I go last. I mean, I don't know. I just go last and then move on to the next thing.
I've been staying up late a lot, so I mean, and so that's usually like, I was playing like Last of Us Part 2 until 3 or 4 in the morning, and then now I stay up probably till 1 or 2 reading comic books on Comixology. So I've read a lot of comics over
when do you
the
wake up?
Oh yeah,
few weeks, huh?
When do you wake up? All he's asking.
Usually I try to get up at 8 a.m. Some days I'm like, F it, I'm gonna sleep until noon.
That's early for me.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great. But it's like I'm trying
be hard.
to. It is kind of hard. But I do it to myself. Bonnie and I have been watching like there's still new movies that are dropping on iTunes. So like there was.
Did you watch the Old Guard?
Yeah, I watched the Old Guard. That was good. The Umbrella Academy I enjoyed. There's a recent movie with Liam Neeson and his son called Made in Italy.
Son.
Huh?
Liam, I'm sorry.
Liam Neeson's which was fantastic. It was quite beautiful. And revisiting some stuff. I watched Taken, the trilogy.
Some more Liam Neeson.
Some more.
Fun fact: he thought that was going to be a box office failure.
Oh,
yeah.
And it was the opposite.
Whoopee.
Well, I mean, Luc Besson, baby, is a hit and miss, baby.
Yeah, but it's also one of the writers is what was he from? I'll get back to it. I was reading about this the other day. Like one of the writers is like famous for a few of the most memorable catchphrases of the last like 10 years, 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And so that line that I have a particular set of skills that everyone remembers, that was him. That
It's
was
like the fucking writer for fucking Predator. Stick around.
I'll look it up. I'll remember.
Nice. I mean, it's been very scattered. I mean, it's video games. But it's also like podcasts. It's also YouTube videos. It's a very like the content is still out there, and it's but it's also there's kind of this balancing act of like also like self-care that has been kind of happened with this. So I'm not doing it as much as I might I don't know. I'm not doing it as much, but still more.
No, I think it's interesting because like when the shutdowns began, like that's where HBO Max launched and Peacock and Animal Crossing became like if you took the top 8, I think, of each system, Xbox and PlayStation and PC games of 2019, and you combined their gross, Animal Crossing still beat all of them combined.
Well, it's like you said with Nintendo. It's like they don't always release a ton of games, but when they fucking nail it, they nail it, dude.
They master it. It's stupid. But like, and so like and I'm thinking about like these things that have like, it's hard to see within a vacuum, right? Like if the world had not been shut down, would Animal Crossing still be as big? Would Last of Us Part 2 still be as big? When the shutdown happened, Avatar: The Last Airbender came onto Netflix, and there was a huge surge of people who was like, I never watched it. Maybe I'll watch it. And everyone says the same goddamn thing. I don't know. And then all somebody seems to was like, I'm all about it. So it's like, Hamilton came out on Disney Plus, and everyone was all about that shit. Doom Patrol Season 2 and moving to HBO Max, Umbrella Academy. Fall Guys is seeing like this is the most talked about game right now. It's interesting to think about like what is happening now, and do you think it would have been successful had we not had this shutdown? And like my experience with this has been like I'm going to get to the things I have not gotten to. So I started watching The Witcher finally.
Nice.
And actually I'm like, all right, because I used to say like if there's one thing that a TV show should give me, that's like a stream show, it should at least look good. And Witcher, I think by far it looks better than like I love Watchmen and I enjoy Mandalorian for what it was. I like some of the Titans or some of the DC shows. I've seen a little bit of Brave New World on Peacock, but Witcher, there are some shots I'm just like, there's nothing that looks better than this on a stream show. There's nothing that looks like better colored, graded in any of those. And I'm just like, okay, it deserved to win. And plus, it was a female showrunner. I'm like, fucking win. They deserve the win. But like, yeah, I built a PC and played a shit ton of games. And like with Black Lives Matter happening during COVID-19, there's been a bunch of Humble Bundles that was dedicated to, the movement. And so like I bought like 100 games. It was like for like $40 in like, cause it was on a super sale. And like playing like Among Us or, playing Raft or playing FTL or Surviving Mars. These games I think that had their heydays are now starting to come back in a little way. And I think Caitlin was kind of like talking about it with Twitch streaming where like people just want to hang out and want to have this normality that like things are kind of normal-ish. But and trying to retain some of that. So it's interesting to see like how the sphere of media with games and TV are being consumed in a way where like now people are catching up on things. So like that lag. And I think to Ollie's point of like consuming so many things at such a fast pace could be like whiplash. And then now you get a chance to get to this backlog. And so for me, like the backlog has been like really kind of nice. I'm like, oh, I get a chance to watch this show. Like this is kind of nice.
For me, it's also like, it's been interesting. I don't think I would have found this without the shutdown. And that's my love for like music videos. And like it's always been there. I love a good like place with crazy music and music videos playing on the side.
But then if you see like really well developed ones, it's like it just hits a different level. Yeah,
it's like a new wave of videos that I've been noticing over the past like few years, and I'm like, this makes sense. I've worked with people that are like this young and are into these kinds of productions, and I'm like, this makes sense. This is like our generation of music video directors and producers and creators, and there's some like really cool editing, and I'm like, I would love to see some of these shots in like a Hollywood movie.
And that's what I say. There's actually a lot of like artful ones too that like are just beautifully shot. Like I'll be 100% vulnerable for everyone. Y'all talk shit about me. I want to hear in the comments, baby.
I'll do the same. I'll drop it right after
like
you. Don't worry.
My Vampire Diaries love, but like Halsey and her music videos are fucking baller as shit. Like one of her first songs was just like this intimate love play relationship with this woman in Japan. And it's just shot in such a like, I already talked about in Top Gun where I was like, it's so beautifully shot. And then like this is like, it's so beautifully shot. Like colors mean something, it's not just an accent on an outfit where it's like the frame is pink. The frame is turquoise.
A few of my favorites, you don't have to worry about getting the hate comments because a few of my favorites right now are Ava Max, BB Rexa, and
let me see some Dua Lipa.
No, it was goddamn. What was it?
No Love for the Lebanese Queen.
Different. Becky G. That's who it was.
Becky G. Becky G's show.
And I've been getting into like Spanish music and stuff like that too.
Nothing wrong with that.
And I'm notoriously
little reggaeton.
Not necessarily fully that, but there's a lot of like, I guess so. Like Sophia Reyes, like she's one of my favorites. Like you already mentioned. But I'm notorious for not being able to like watch a show or a movie while I'm working or while I'm playing video games at the same time. My brain can't separate those things.
That's too much.
Yeah, I end up spending way too much attention to the thing that's playing in the background.
Yep.
But this music video thing is like perfect because what I do is I put on my AirPods and then it's playing on my Apple TV over there and it's playing into my headphones and I'm just working and I can see it off on my right hand side. So it's kind of cool. It's a cool setup.
It's a nice little in between.
My favorite one right now is that
keeps you creative, keeps you motivated.
Is that Josh's favorite word? That what, baby?
That writer who I was talking about for Taken, who's famous for other catchphrases in movies, his name is Robert Mark Kamen. He helped write Fifth Element, is responsible for the Leeloo Dallas multipass line, but he's also famous for the line "Wax on, wax off." He wrote Karate Kid. He wrote Karate Kid 1, 2, 3, and the next Karate Kid.
Wow. Call this guy for your next catchphrase.
It was, just to take it back to Taken for a minute, it was one of those ones that had all the elements to be just one of those forgettable movies, but just had just enough, like Luc Besson and Mark Kamen, to give it that push over the edge to be.
I would say
Mark
Mark came and definitely hit at something because I had to study that in school. I had to study that film in school and talk about subtext about no. What the fuck? Taken.
Fifth Element.
Taken.
Oh, okay.
And it has conversations about women in film and subtext. So it's interesting. Josh?
I was just going to say,
also writing The Transporter. So
Nice.
You brought up another gaming related COVID thing, and that's streaming. Streaming is at a huge uptick because, like, okay, so pulling back the curtain a little bit, because we have had to switch to such a remote setup, we are streaming more. That requires certain technology for those things. If you go and try to find those pieces of technology, they're practically sold out everywhere.
I will say,
or they're price gouged.
A majority of it, from the reading I've done, isn't streaming, but companies requiring conference calls.
No, yeah. When I was, again, I was delivering kits to certain individuals for a company that I work for. Like, I had to, it was like 2 weeks after shutdown. So, like, I had 2 weeks to just chill, clean my room, get my life a little bit. I'm like, I like introvertness. But anyway, and then they're like, back to work. I'm like, oh, shit. And so I had to like go through all of LA and all the Targets and just find webcams and blue microphones.
Yep.
And that shit was hard to find, baby.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's
so,
what I
like,
mean. It affects the technology, I mean, is like it's so widespread now. It is for some people are using it for Zoom calls or stuff like that, not for Twitch, but for people that do use Twitch or whatever. It's so funny how the technology is now people are like, oh, you can do that? Yeah, people have been doing it for a living.
What's the phrase kind of like being constricted breeds creativity? Restriction breeds creativity.
Yeah.
So with that, I will say that we've reached out to try other products aside from Elgato, which is what we were using at the studio there. And we found some great workarounds, which I'm pretty happy about. I have this game capture for my Xbox here.
That's what we got for Caitlin.
Brand. Yeah, that we got a recommendation during a stream from one of our patrons. They're like, yeah, try this one out. And it's awesome. And it's like a third of the price.
Yeah.
So the upswing to that is that we've found some way around.
I think that's also goes in line with what Josh was talking about with Rebellion, where gaming and these not like Disney, Warner Brothers, big fucking companies have this opportunity. It's an upward hill for sure. It's Sisyphean to a task to kind of bridge the gap of like quality and affordability, where like it's like we have the technology, we know the workflow, and we can do it. It's to Corey's point of like the restriction breeds creativity. It's, to me, I always think of Sam Raimi making Evil Dead in the woods with a bunch of his friends. It's the horror movie status
he almost
of like
killed Bruce Campbell with a motorcycle. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's better than Bryan Singer almost killing Hugh Jackman. So it's
better
like
than Bryan Singer doing anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, he doesn't do anything on set apparently.
I'll agree with you on that. Apparently,
for like 2 weeks, he was like not on set, and everyone's just like, "Why?" He's like, he wanted to go back to LA to go get his back looked at something. Yeah. I was like, "Really?" No, it is that like level that like Peter Jackson did with Hobbit, with Lord of the Rings. It's
I was like, watch your mouth.
It's what Sam Raimi did with Spider-Man. So it's like you get the people who have been, and I think honestly, YouTubers are like, yo, this is our time to shine, because like we've had to work with these like quote unquote like DIY
restrictions.
Jiminy setups, and it's like, all right, well, here you go.
MacGyver.
And then it's like, yeah, Jiminy MacGyver.
I mean, I mean, just to call attention, there's this positive where it's like, but it is funny where it's like, I have so much technology in front of me to achieve content creation. And it's like we, as content creators, as part of this, I consider us as a part of this entertainment and whatnot. The technology is out there, and that's really cool that people are able to make things.
Well, that's been the most like inspiring part of this whole thing, right? Is perseverance, coming through, despite everything that's going on in the world, and still trying to find a way to make the world better.
Yeah, it's. I was having this conversation with a friend of mine. Shout out to Kyle. He listens to the show. He was saying like, if this had been like if everything that's been going on happened in like the 1970s or 1960s, like would things still be with what it was? And I was like, I think guaranteed the infection and death rates would have been higher. And you don't have video calls. You don't have this digital age stuff. So it's like things either would have had to have stopped or people would have just had to have just gone back to work. And then you just risk that like dying is a work hazard. Like that's a normal thing.
Which there's some of that still happening, but yeah.
In a terrible way. And like I have, written a many concept films of like the idea of like at the like to me, I think that I talk about that Wall-E thing, and it's like everyone just gets obese and has their fucking drinkable cupcake. But I think it's much more like Black Mirror episode 2 of the first season, where everyone has their fucking Peloton bike. Everyone has their fucking air tube thing that like they can get their food from. Everyone is
Is that the Daniel Kaluuya one?
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. But everyone's reliant on couriers and courier systems. Those are the only people who are still working, because you can get everything right here on your thing. You can watch your TV. You no longer have a TV and a computer. It's one device. And you just have many of those. And that's like where you watch your TV. That's where you do your work, all that stuff. You could carry around with you like a Switch and stuff like that. But there's no
one device.
Yeah, there's no actual reason for you to go outside other than to get goods. But then if you can't get goods because you can't it guarantees safety, then couriers are doing that, and they're the ones who are like the soldiers and the it's all that stuff. So it's very interesting to see like we're getting closer and closer, because I've seen, and it's not like it's a shade or anything. Like for me, I was like, oh, I guess I'm gonna be cooking a lot more. I've seen the exact opposite with people, where it's like, I guess I'm gonna be ordering out a lot more.
That's
and
so
people
weird.
And people have just been like, I do nothing but order food. I'm like,
I've experienced the complete opposite. So that I think it varies from person to person, because most of the people that I've been around are now experimenting with cooking in ways that they never had before.
I think
I'll be honest though, I do order in now more than I did.
Sure. I was gonna say the clout and flaunting of I order a lot more isn't as sexy as I know how to make bread. So
which
I think
I learned how to make bread. I learned how to make cinnamon rolls.
I think that as many people who say like I learned how to do this, I'm like, I guarantee you, like there's much more people who are just ordering food. Like the overwhelming number of like it's probably like 70 to 30%. And it's like some of it could be a lot more. It could be like obviously a good thing, because it's like I want to support businesses. Or it could be I'm just not going to be a person that cooks food.
I have a monkey bread recipe that you can get it from the fridge to the oven in less than 30 seconds.
Oh my God.
I don't believe you.
Well, I know there's also a lot of people, to speak to it, who are ordering in more, even ordering their groceries in more to try to help flatten the curve. But also there's a lot of people who are scared to go out.
Yeah.
And so, I'm glad we have that technology exists now, that these people can, and myself, there's days where I'm just exhausted. And I'm like, you know what? I want a sandwich from Mike's. So I'm going to order a sandwich from Mike's. I'm going to have it delivered to me. That's what I'm doing today.
Well, and I think that's how the, to tie back in all the games and film and everything else, like we can't go out for our escapism as much anymore. So we have to go in. So there's the amount of, I think the entertainment industry as a whole is going to be fine. It's just that giant shift that's coming, but it's going to be completely supported all the way through, because people need that now more than ever.
Yeah, it's just how
that line is in every commercial copy I've ever read for in the last 6 months. Now more than ever.
I guess the question is, what are we? The big things that can keep swinging are going to survive. It's a matter of whether or not things like the Lemley or mom and pop shops are going to make it through.
Well, those are going to be the things that the restrictions going to bring about more creativity. There's like those mom and pop shops are going to, if they want to survive, are going to have to innovate in new ways that might bring about something that we haven't seen before, that then slowly like the bigger companies are going to adopt, because mom and pop shops had to innovate to be able to stay relevant enough for people to care.
Hopefully. It'd be nice if we got federal business relief, but that's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole other conversation.
I was gonna say it's tough, because it's kind of like you have to probably pay premium to support the smaller, versus where the bigger are going to be like just going to price match and be competitive with
Amazon.
Lower things.
Amazon has killed many stores.
Yeah, and it's the thing. It's tough. It's like it costs more to care. it honestly costs more to care, and it costs less to be efficient.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other conversation too. If you want to talk about why healthy food costs twice as much as unhealthy food does.
It's probably it's
we can
because
have a whole episode
because
on
it's
that.
literally worth that much.
Yes
Anywho.
and no. There's a whole
That's a whole
I'm just
conversation.
iron curtain we could pull back.
Whole
Money or us.
conversation.
I would say I think the cost of having one chicken from a farm versus having 6 gooey chicken nugget things that you don't know what the fuck it is way less than what a chicken is.
Yes and
Yes.
no, but you're also
The
thinking about
whole
the machines and labor they're
conversation.
pulling
There's more
for,
play,
and those larger
yeah.
farms cost a lot more. Whereas you could support the farmer who's out there with maybe 10 people, you know, picking and planting his own crops. Anyway, we'll get into that in another episode.
Whole conversation.
Yeah. So yeah.
Anywho.
I think that about wraps up like a little bit of our.
Yeah.
I realized on the show notes I wrote game mining. Game mining.
Game.
Oh,
Game.
I
game
wrote
mining.
game. It was supposed to be gaming and film, but I wrote game mining or game mining.
Oh, I
Game
see that
mining.
now.
But
Gemini
yeah,
mining and
that was a fun conversation. Everybody
Pinged
at
all
home,
over the
let
place.
us know what you thought. Let us know your thoughts of everything that's going on, the gaming industry, the film industry, all that kind of stuff. Feel free to reach
your
out to us.
savior.
Yes.
and also,
During
what
this
other
time.
topics do you want us to talk about in this fashion? We don't normally get a chance
Yeah.
to do this, and
We talk
wanna
about the
make
industry, but we're not talking about how it's affecting our show. No more summer movie madness, at least not for now.
Not for
So,
now.
no E3,
We're adapting.
which I've been in
Changing.
my
More
own
streaming.
little E3. So yeah,
Lots more streams.
Less and more.
Yeah.
But feel free to reach out to us in the comments on all of our social media. Also, we've talked about it before, but our Discord is open. Come join that. There's a lot of really cool peeps in there, and there's places to rant. There's places to talk about comic books. There's places to talk about whatever your favorite escape
places
is.
to talk about things that might be like hard to talk about that aren't really nerdy. There's things that to talk about that are like a little spicy. You know, you can put it in a little sexy stuff on the NSFW, baby. It's up to you.
I mean, but not too sexy.
Not too sexy, though.
But yeah, so check that out, nerdon.tv/Discord. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you all. Hope that the quarantine has been treating you well.
Hope you're staying safe.
Yeah, staying safe.
And despite everything we've been talking about, I do want to say one last thing of like, if you have a responsible opportunity to go on a little mini vacation to get out of the house, maybe visit a friend, do it.
Yeah.
Safely.
It'll make
Safely.
safely. If you can arrange it to where it's all safe and all the protocols are met, getting out a little bit is going to be a huge help for you. I promise.
But don't make it a party. Don't be like the fucking stupid YouTubers.
no,
in LA.
don't go to a beach party
Please don't do that.
or a house party.
or a house party. Go outside, stay distant, be with nature. Basically, you don't even have to go with people. Just be with nature.
Give it a chance to reflect.
If you are new to Nerd On, do check out our website. It has recently gone through a facelift to make it super easy to listen and subscribe wherever you would like to listen and subscribe. Do check out our YouTube. All of these episodes go to YouTube. Check out our Twitch channel. We are streaming a lot more these days, and a lot of that content, a lot of those streams are made into entertaining content that goes onto our other YouTube channel, Nerd On TV. So check those out. All of these links that I'm mentioning are on our website. So if you remember one thing, nerdon.tv has all of the information.
The linky links.
The linky links, yes. Do stop by, rate and review us. It does a lot of things. It does help to the higher ups see things. It helps us to grow because we see that feedback, even if it's positive. It helps us to go, okay, cool, we're doing that right. But it also makes us feel really good about ourselves. It's fun to read those things and to share them with each other.
It's a good pick me up.
Yeah, it's a nice pick me up. We work hard here and we love doing it. So, but yeah, that's it. That has been this week's episode. You know the drill. As always, Nerd On.
Nerd on.
Ending broadcast.